All right, here we go. We're gonna be starting episode 1 in part 5. Welcome back if you are returning from a previous video, and if this is the first video you're catching, there are 4 other parts to this. I put it in a convenient playlist under Farm Sims 19 or FS19 2021. It's a new playlist. Anyway, we're returning back. It's the same day. It's now 16:09 on the farm time. Still the 11th of mid-autumn. We're riding the horses, and at the same time we are doing a sewing job on field 25 in town. I don't remember what horse we're on. We're doing the voiceover on the 10th of January 2021, and the video was shot on the 6th of January at 5:44 a.m. in the morning. Got a lot done today. It was a very long day. I came off the stream and I had a lot of energy and I didn't end up sleeping. And that made me really tired, and so I decided not to stream, and I decided to spend a lot of my time recording videos. I did shoot a couple hours of DC Universe Online. We're going to be getting those videos out soon. Also, in terms of a production schedule, I think I have settled on that when we go to shoot these videos, I'm going to format them in a 720 HD or 720p scan. P stands for, I believe, Pro Scan. And there's a P or I is interlaced. It's the type of scanning that the format tells the display how to scan the image on the screen. But we're going to go with the 720 HD. It's still HD quality, but it's a DVD high definition quality. The lowest standard of HD you can get is 520, and 720 is a little bit bigger. And the reason why I decided to go with that is because it only takes about 4 hours to record each hour-long footage. Once you format it and put it in the correct standard before you upload it to YouTube, it only takes 4 hours to process the video, and the 1080 takes about 8 to 10 hours to process. And at the rate that we're shooting videos, I don't want to spend 10 hours a day waiting on the computer, because then you pretty much can't use it. And that's a lot of time. With the 4 hour, you could process 2 to 3 videos in the time that you would really do one video, and get them uploaded. And it takes an hour to get each video off the PlayStation 4 using the USB drive or memory card. And I seem to found a good system. It's always good to clean the horses. Once I believe this was Chester. Is that what it said? Yeah, Chester. Again, with each horse, I start with this. This is the common stable. And then you ride them for about 15 minutes. That gets their riding up to around 300. And here we are. We're checking on this guy. He's for what he did a really good job, but he ran into complications. He didn't know what to do, and he quit. Gave up. So we're going to go over here and help him out. Help him out. And when you do this, you got to get it going and then hit the button and it brings the guy back. And now we use our easy transport button and we end up back magically at the stables. But I decided to get the riding center because you can do it at night. It's lit up. And you could move 4 of the horses over to that and put 4 of the horses here. That way they're not all cooped up and confined. I think the horses like their space, and having too many confined is not ideal. I find 8 to be ideal for what we do because we got a lot going on. And if we were hardcore horse trainers, we could just lay out all these fields one at a time, and then you only really need to ride them 5 minutes out of the day, and that was nice. But I think that's kind of not good for the horse. I give them about 15 minutes good ride and seem happy, and really gets their fitness up and keeps them healthy, and you make a lot of money from that. Horses in season, if you play the non-season version of Farm Sims, they increase in value differently. And the regular game that has a non-season mod, they as you feed them and ride them, they increase in value. And then you sell the horse, because you basically buy the horse and then you sell it. And the season mod, you're simulating a livery stable, and what that is someone pays you to ride the horse every day, and that in turn increases the value, and you get paid every day. Whereas I believe if you bought the horse, you wouldn't really get paid every day. You ride the horse, you spend a lot of time with it, and then after a certain time it reaches a value, and then you return the horse and you get a payout. But with seasons, you're paid every day. You get the horse for free, basically, and the people pay you basically to rent your stable, and they're basically paying you for your time. And so, since we're being paid $1,600, if you don't train the horses at all, it's about 600. 600 to 800 a day per horse, so it's roughly $100 per horse. Or if you went with the 600 value, that would be what 5 by 7, or sorry, 8 horses is $75 to train a horse, basically. For 15 minutes of work. So just keeping them there. But if you train them, then it doubles the price of the horse, which is around $1,200 a day you're getting to care for the horse per day per horse. And actually that's 8 horses, that's around 150, and then if you get them up to the $1,800 a day range, that's basically $225 for a day's worth of work, which is about 2.5 hours of work to train the horse. Actually, it's more than that, because you're keeping the horse, you're feeding the horse, you're giving them a place to stay, and keeping them exercised and healthy. So you don't have to do that. It's not like that people are gonna come and how dare you neglect my horse, because technically they're neglecting the horse, right? They're paying someone else to care for the horse, but you know, it's fun. Now these backfields, now you're getting a good look at it, as I built these parks. The grass there are actually plant beds, and I planted grass all in these fields. Originally I was using these for the animal stables, but once I learned how to use the animal areas on the map properly, I migrated all the animals to the areas that they're in, and then I built these fields, or I repurposed these fields to grow grass. Grass is so important. A lot of the animals eat it, and you need it for hay. And so you can only grow it 5 to 6 times out of the year. It takes 4 weeks for the grass to regenerate, but at the same time, you plant it once, it's all the seeds you need. It's good forever. And same thing with trees. You plant them once, they're good forever. However, you got to get through the 6-year phase of growing the tree. See the leaves over there are all turning brown because of the autumn. I'm not sure if the leaves fall off the tree. I don't know. We're coming up on our first winter. It's in about 2 weeks, so we're about to find out. Now, in this field, the guy we bought it from, I went ahead and re-edged it like we did the other field, and I kept the barley on. I'm going to go through and throw some herbicide on it and kill all these weeds. And then I think I did do a site survey on this field, but I don't remember doing it on any of the new fields. So it's one of the things I have to do. I felt like I had to sneeze, and I ended up not, so I had to pause the tape for a bit. But I want to go through the procedure on video. Doing the survey so people get to see that, how it's thoroughly done and the way it would be done properly. I used to do surveys, which is a contractor for a little bit, and we did site surveys overseas. Now, we didn't do like farms like in the game, but we go around the different sites and shoot them with GPS, survey the buildings, the ground, the manholes, the all the outside plant, inside plant architecture, and tell the people what they had, where everything was located, the condition of the outside and inside plant, update their documents, so forth. There's our new trailer we bought. Now, I did shoot new footage last night, which would be essentially the next day, and I built a dairy farm. So I was watching some videos, some other farms that a lot of them have come back from the winter. They were on winter break, but one of the people I follow is a 10th generation dairy farmer, and I'm going to put the reference material on each video once I get them loaded to YouTube and start releasing them. So that's something to look forward to. So if you're interested, you could follow them. I don't really know who they are. I got a lot of educational value out of those, watching those farmers, and I would gladly pass that on to anyone who's playing Farm Sims 19, or you might just like watching people play Farm Sims 19, and that's fun too. I spend hours nowadays, even as a Twitch streamer. On my off time, I watch Twitch and YouTube like television these days. I haven't really watched television in like 4 years. I haven't seen television. The only show I really watched religiously was Young and Restless, and I kind of haven't seen that in a while. At least, yeah, I haven't seen a new episode of Young and Restless in about 2 years, I think. I know Michelle Stafford came back, and then all of a sudden the coronavirus thing happened, and so they went on hiatus for a little bit. But I think they shot new episodes, but I haven't been able to watch it because mainly I'm behind, and I don't want to like a spoiler alert. And then CBS has kind of all accesses all over the place, so I don't really know where they're going with Young and Restless. But my three favorite all-time shows anyway was Young and Restless, Star Trek, and Wonder Woman. I love Wonder Woman. As you know, I write the fan fiction, so I really like writing fan fiction for that. And one of my favorite all-time characters are Phyllis Summers, Captain Kirk, and they call her Diana Prince in Serial, but technically she didn't really have a name. William Marston didn't really give her a name other than Diana. And Diana Prince isn't even her real name, so I gave her a name in our fan fiction. And the character on the horse is supposed to be her. She dyes her hair red in 1950. I wanted to make it that was one of her powers, was that she could be any woman, because in our fan fiction she has telepathy and empathy, and those were actual powers that she had in the William Marston time. She could communicate through telepathy, and she built a telepathy radio that she gave to Etta Candy, and that's how the people who didn't have telepathy could communicate with her. And then to carry that through to our fan fiction, we have them make it into a piece of jewelry, which was a bracelet that Athens gives to Etta Candy in book 1. And our book 1 right now is in rewrite, so if you have a chance or are curious, or find our playlist for Chronicles of Earth 9, that's kind of what's going on with book 1. Book 1 was written for a competition, and it was an adult website, and they had certain criteria that we had to do, so it was the first time I had written anything for in a professional way, I guess. And I wrote a short 13,000 word story in 3 simple parts, and used it as the basis for writing what ended up as the second story, which was book 2, which that ended up being 76,000 words. And it was technically 3 parts, but it's only really 2 parts, because there's the first half of the book where you're dealing with the character, and so second half of the book, she gets in a fight with Solomon Grundy, and when he's basically assaulting her, she absorbs him because she has empathy, and you go into her mind, and she lives the life of this guy for the past 50 years. And this allows you to sort of see how her powers work. And she actually, because in William Marston's original vision of the character was supposed to have the power of truth. Kind of like with Superman has the power of X-ray vision, Wonder Woman had the ability to see the truth. And later on, she got the lasso, and the lasso allowed her to control other people. But it was supposed to be one of her powers, because William Marston, one of his studies as a psychologist and psychiatrist, was he studied lies and truth, and he developed a lie detector. Him and his wife, and Elizabeth Marston, and Olive Burns. That was sort of his field of study, and so he incorporated that into the character, and I always liked that myself. I'm a psychology major. My major's in psychology, and my minor's in anthropology, which is linguistic anthropology. And psychology, I don't really, because I only finished the undergraduate, but I haven't gone on to do the master's and graduate stuff yet. But I feel my strongest focus in psychology is the cognitive side of psychology. I really like studying neurons, how the brain works, how people work, how they interrelate, and I like how you can branch that into psychology or anthropology. And with the linguistics, anthropology, linguistic anthropology studies people and how they communicate, languages, dead languages, modern languages, its future languages. And it's a very impressive field in how people communicate and why they communicate and so forth. And if you interrelate that with psychology, it's pretty interesting. At least for me it is. And that's why the character has the ability to interpret all forms of language. In our adaptation of the character, we added a layer onto the character. If you play a lot of video games, most, when they get into like fighting and combat, most characters take on 4 type of roles. You either have a tank, controller, healer, or damage dealer. And in DC Universe Online, everybody can be one of the 4. Everyone is a damage dealer, sort of your basic role, and then you have a specialty role. So if you're a damage dealer and you want to specialize in just damage, you skill out, gear out your characters with the armor and skills to do that. And in our fan fiction, Athenata, or Wonder Woman, her primary role is she's a healer. That's what she's, a celestial type of healer. And in the story, we made her the Holy Spirit, mainly because when I was researching the character, we had to determine early on how powerful is the character, right? So, and I was always fascinated as a child with what you have, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You always see people writing about the Father and the Son, but no one really writes about the Holy Spirit, like what is the Holy Spirit. And so I imagine that from a fictional point of view, that the Holy Spirit, it represents God, but I always see it as the feminine side of the tree of life. And so in our adaptation, we split the tree of life into what's called a feminine energy, which is indirect form of energy, and masculine is a direct form of energy. And so as we develop the character, that's sort of her raw nature. She finds an indirect way to do things as the Holy Spirit, and that's what makes her powerful. Now, in her spiritual form, she's immortal and kind of unstoppable, because she's an archangel, basically, and they're kind of unstoppable. But when they come to Earth in their human avatar form, they're limited, because for them to walk around in the physical plane, they're really massive beings of energy. And they could hurt people, they could damage people, they could indirectly affect just physical things on Earth. So when they come to Earth, they have their human form that they take on weakens them, and that's how they can be affected by people. They're still strong, like in our fan fiction. There are 3 type of people in the universe. You have the immortal, or titans. Then you have the metahumans, who are offspring. If you have a titan mated with a mortal, their offspring or future offspring will be metahumans. And then if an immortal mates with a mortal, their offsprings are mortal, and then they could be a metahuman, but it's not always so. They could be born mortal, non-metahuman. And then on Earth, in the current time period that we're in, the metahuman population's only about 1% of the total population of humans on Earth, anatomically modern human. And so the immortal population on Earth is about the same size. There's only about 1% the human population, and but they're spread out across the universe. So, and then in the novel, or serial, we wanted to explore the concept of a symbiotic relationship. We have a weaker type of organism, but massive, in that there are a lot of humans, and then a smaller population of but powerful energy beings, and then they sort of live together on this world, and then that's how they in the fiction they sort of shelter. But my main point with the roles is that each character, when you meet a metahuman and a Titan, they take on a role. So Athenata, her primary role is a healer, and because she's the Holy Spirit, she's a very powerful healer, probably the most powerful healer in the universe. And that's one of the reasons why we did the dark side story in book 20. Actually, he shows up in book 19. And doing that story, we had to figure out, well, how powerful is dark side, how powerful is Athenata in terms of scale, right? And I developed my own scales and how to do that. And beyond, well, it's the hero, and the hero always wins. And we sort of deviated from that, so it'd be a little more realistic, so that your audience can relate to the character. Some things when you're laying out a book or story, especially in a serial form, you have to address a lot of these issues before you even start writing. And how are you gonna, because the way we do it is how the people grow in power is based on their age. And so like anatomically modern human, there are 3 standard deviations. You have the normal human, which is like a 1, and then 2 standard deviations over would be like someone like Bruce Wayne or someone, if they worked out, they would be basically 2 standard deviations away from the average adult human. And then if they really worked out like a world-class athlete, they're usually around 3 standard deviations. So the metahuman, there are 4 classes of metahumans, and they go in 3 stages. Within each class, there's a stage, and it goes by age. And around age 20, they're basically, they start out 3 standard deviations from what a modern human, an anatomically modern human would be, and then they go through 3, 4, and 5 standard deviations, and then a type 2 metahuman, or class 2 metahuman, is 6, 7, and 8 standard deviations, and then a class 3 is 9, 10, and 11, and then the last stage of metahuman are 12, 13, and 14, and Titans are 15 standard deviations away from anatomically modern human. That's what they start out as. but for humans, that's they have to be, that's around 100 years old. Then after 100 years old, they grow exponentially. So, like, immortal Titan, they start off at 15 standard deviations away from the anatomically modern human, but to the first power. And then at 200 years is to the power 2. So Athenata, who's 2,800 years old, she's 28, she's 15 to the 28th power with her attributes. Paulada is 3,500 years old. And where Athenata is different is because she's a celestial angel, she has the power of the Holy Spirit, and that's what makes, because she was basically a child of God. In our fan fiction, we call him God El Yahweh. And he basically mated with Athena, who was the virgin Titan, and Apollo carried the child, and that way Athena could still be a virgin, and that's how she comes about in the story, and that's how she ended up having 2 mothers. It's pretty awesome, I think. But in terms of William Marston's character, we incorporated a lot of the ideas that he had with the character, but he never got around to doing, because he died in 1947. He died really early on as the character started growing, and so I feel we're sort of restoring the character to her original glory, which I feel in the William Marston time of the story, the character was a funnier character. It's a really funny character, and she had a lot of good one-liners, and like, she would, like, very sarcastic and very playful character. And when they made the television show in the 70s, the people that produced that went to great lengths to try to preserve that character, and I think they did to some extent. They deviated in terms of television, because they had it was a show designed for children, teenagers basically, and the stuff with the magic belt and stuff, that was stuff they added in with the television show, which character really didn't have. We didn't do any of that because I felt that with the immortals in the story, I don't like it when you see a lot of these superhero stories and they weaken the character to a point that they're kind of like an oddball in the story, or they're afraid to, or they think that somehow the audience can't relate to a powerful character, and that's not true. I think people can relate to it. People know when they go to a movie that it's a fictional story, right? Right? So it's like watching a Star Wars movie. People don't feel themselves less of a person because they're not a Jedi Knight, right? And there are people that I've met that think they are Jedi Knights. Just because they went and bought a lightsaber doesn't make you a Jedi Knight. Just makes you a guy with a lightsaber. Or a gal with a lightsaber. When I was in college, one of the clubs they had were people that, it was, I don't know if it was a professional series, but it was a sport. Like fencing, and then they do it with lightsabers. That was always kind of fun to watch. But anyway, I think when we did the Sophie Fatal stuff, using that as a chance to work on the Green Lantern stuff, and I redid a lot of the Green Lantern stuff, and I made it based on what we're doing with Wonder Woman and Celestial and how we consolidated different religions, and there still are different religions, but we create a cosmology that's sort of why they exist in the universe altogether and how they could exist altogether. And like Athenata in the story, she's not a Catholic, she's a pagan in the story. And it's funny because in book 20, I think it's fun that God comes to her in the story, and it's the first time they met, like face to face in the story. And he comes to her face to face because he has to ask her to do something that's very traumatic, give up something important, and she does so, but it comes at a huge cost. And so, and at the same time, which is demonstrated in book 20, is why they can't be together is because her power of truth is so powerful that when she touches God in the story, she sees the day her unborn daughter dies and how she dies and when she dies. And she lives the whole life of the daughter. And so she has to go 27 years at that point knowing this. And so in the story, she doesn't write the date down when this occurs. She's the only one in the story other than her and God that know this. But it creates a lot of problems with her and her daughter in the story. And but it's part of one of the lessons she has to learn as a Titan. And it's a very, and at that point of the story, it's her 13th child in the story. And it's the first child she's had in the post-modern period. But in the story, we had written like all her children had died because she mated with mortal men. So all her children ended up mortal. And so, but all her other children died by like different circumstances. And so, in the story, that's why God comes to her in the story and meets her personally, but at the same time, it sort of explains why he talks with her in the back of her mind. And but in the backstories from 850 BCE to 1943, it's clearly shown in the stories that they're talking with each other, but she's never met her father face to face in the story. And that sort of explains why. It's very dangerous for her. Anyway, here we are. We brought the horse back. I'm going to clean him. He's a black Arabian horse. Real pretty horse, huh? One of my favorite games to play is Red Dead Redemption 2, and I love the part of the game where you're out camping and you're hunting and you're living off the land and you're foraging food and you're making food for yourself, for the horse, and you're foraging plants. I know that'll never be in this game, but on some level I wish that was in the game. But it's kind of cool. That way when you're caring for the horse, you're really making like good feed for them and stuff. I put that coffee shop there. I put that waste can there. It cost me a slot, but I think it was worth it. I was trying to find a barbecue stand, because if you go through the south, like Florida, Alabama, Georgia, there's always these roadside barbecue places. There's one here by my house. There's a Harley Davidson place, and the guy started with just a little trailer, and like 10 years later, he's still got the trailer out there, but there's a deck out there. He's added a couple more trailers. He's got awnings out there, and what happens is the bikers, they meet on the weekends, right? And I guess he's one of them because he's right there at the Harley Davidson place. And they go out riding, and then he makes all the food so that they all have something to eat. They all meet right there in the parking lot. And he basically built his restaurant right there in the parking lot. And it's a barbecue. And there are places like that in the South, all over the place. And that was my inspiration for putting that coffee shop there. But I couldn't find any barbecue. There's another place in Tampa here. It's like a Caribbean place, but it's on the east side of town. And the guy doesn't have a building. It started with the old school bus, and then it's basically sitting there. And then he built the kitchen in the school bus, and then he's got a bunch of other trailers now, which eventually built all the buildings, facilities, and that's the place. And then the place where you eat, he built like a courtyard area, which is inside. I don't know if I'm describing this right, but all the vehicles sort of make a perimeter. And then he has a little awning with the tents and stuff, and it's outside. And it's actually a pretty cool place to eat. I've eaten there a couple times in a little Caribbean barbecue place. Kind of cool. I like people that are sort of entrepreneurial and inventive at the same time. That's always kind of cool. Very American spirit there. Now we're going to go in here and take care of these gaps this guy created. Problem with hired help in this game is they just, you question what the heck. One little spot. See, whoever designed this field, they put the house, that little cul-de-sac there, just to screw with us. They knew it was gonna screw with the AI, and on top of that, they put all those trees around there just to, add insult to injury. I don't know why someone would plant all those trees like that on their driveway. It's just silly. What? It's like, what? Does he like to go out and sweep up leaves? Take him like months to all those trees start shedding in the autumn. He'll be out there for months just raking up leaves. But it kind of shows you like different cultures. Like I noticed that like British people, they like that with walkways with all these trees. You see this everywhere, and then in the U.S. they'd have chopped all those trees down. It's kind of annoying. One tree would have sufficed. It's all fun and it's all game. Goes to hell, no one's to blame. Look at that field across from there, all nice and clean, and easements are pretty. Look at that. Compared to this field looks like it's all run down looking. Now, in terms of real farm, I don't know if a real farmer would do this. plant the seeds in 2 different directions. But the game allows you to do it, so.
Another trying to make a dime, another sucker on the vine, another slacker trying to get off cheap. I'm just trying to get a good night's sleep. When you think you've had enough, here comes another one. When you think you've had enough.
But as I was saying earlier, I settled on 720 HD, mainly because it only takes 4 hours to process the video, and then about 10-15 minutes to upload it to YouTube, and then it can take like an hour to process it through YouTube, and then it's up and ready to go. And the way we're going to release the videos is we'll release them on Patreon for like a week, and then after a week release them publicly on YouTube. So that's, I'm trying to do it on Sundays, so I'm building a big stack of videos, and then that way they're ready to go come Sunday. I could manually do them or do it automatically. And then, it seems fair. Got a couple other series coming out. We got DC Universe, World of Warcraft, then Star Trek Online, and The Sims 4. I'm kind of excited about The Sims 4 because that's kind of a new game for me. I just started playing that. World of Warcraft I like because I feel I play World of Warcraft very differently than other people. DC Universe I play differently, and I take my time, and I like walking around doing the lore and reading the story, enjoying the game experience. I don't really see too many people on the internet doing that. But I find it to be fun. Anyway, we're coming up. It's taking an hour. We're now 56 minutes into the hour. Coming up on the last like 10 minutes of the video. Now at this time of the year it starts getting dark around sunset occurs between usually 6:30 and 7 at night. But the forecast is for rain, so we wanted to get the sowing jobs done. You can actually sow in the rain and fertilize in the rain in the game. You can't harvest in the rain. I'm gonna check the air satellites telling us that guy missed a huge. Look at that big old spot that guy missed. We're gonna recharge our seeds here. Square this off and then let the computer go to town. I try to let the computer do as much as possible because it really saves seeds, I think. And the computer can go a little straighter than we can. And it hits it right every time. Except when the trees and buildings and stuff tend to confuse the computer and it doesn't know what to do, and so a lot of times you have to step in there and show them how to do it. It's like, what are they teaching the computer kids these days when they drive by a tree and they freak out and they give up working? By computer kids, I mean the AI unit. We're playing the in-game music. I don't know if at the time that I'm doing, because I did the voiceover in sort of a batch. At this point, I have 4 videos loaded up to YouTube. They're all private right now. I'm waiting to release them, but I had to reload part 4 because somehow the later part of the video, I didn't raise the volume high enough. Whenever I load videos to YouTube, one of the things I do is watch the video and see what happens, because sometimes you think the video is great, but problems arise and you discover it after you loaded it to YouTube, and I quickly went and remade a new one and had to get that loaded up. Okay, we turned it over to the AI guy. I believe we end up going back to the field to ride one more horse. Then we come back. I like this cedar. It's the horse. I forget what model number it is, but I discovered it, and I found it over time that I love it the most. It's a nice compact, has a nice broad base. It lays out a good, I think it's what, 12 meters, and very dependable. Doesn't break down a lot. And it's all self-contained in one unit. It's kind of cool. It has a fertilizer option, but with the advent of the precision system, I don't know why you would want to fertilize separately. I prefer to, once you get the bed plowed or cultivated, I then throw either manure or slurry on the field. Then I plant the seeds, and then I lay the herbicide down, because at that point it's easy to see the herbicide. Then I lay a layer of lime, which well, let me back up. After you harvest, you do another site survey of the field. Then you plow or cultivate the field, depending on what you did last with it. Then, once you get that, then you lay the manure or slurry on the field, and that sort of pre-fertilizes the field. And then you put the seed in the ground. Then once you lay the seed in, then you put the herbicide, which prevents weeds from getting into the field or growing. And then I lime it. Then after I lime the field, then I go back over with the dry fertilizer. I prefer the dry fertilizer, though you could use any. I prefer the dry fertilizer. And then that then locks it in for about I guess a week or two. And then as some point, you're supposed to, in the old days before precision farming, you were supposed to, with the season, you had 3 times that you could fertilize, and the slurry and manure didn't count towards that. Even though you are fertilizing, it doesn't count as one of your fertilizing stages, which you only get 3, and you only have 4 growing stages on a plant, which is about 4 weeks. So each stage is 1 week, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then you can harvest. And then harvest, you have 3 periods, which is 3 weeks that you could harvest. So in that time period before you harvest, you can get 3 cracks at it with the fertilizer, which I guess improves your yield. Now with the precision, that's no longer the case. You have to monitor your field, and at some point lay the fertilizer down, and then the applicator only puts what you need on the field, so it may or may not spray the entire field. So I guess that's good, because you might not waste material. But the fertilize your field 3 times may not necessarily work correctly, or correctly probably isn't the right word. May not work the way it did in the past if you're not familiar with the precision of farming. I'm still experimenting around with it. I have to fertilize my fields here because we're in week 2 of the canola, so sometime either tonight's stream or tomorrow night I'm going to fertilize our fields and record it. Now, the number there, 304, is the amount of liters left. So there's just a little under 300 liters of seeds left in the feeder there. Now we are on the metric system. As I said in the last video, it's kind of going back and forth with it, but I'm trying to give it a go at it. Give it a chance. I feel it's important to really learn. Never hurts to be familiar with multiple different type of scales. Anyway, this guy's almost done. And we're coming up towards the end. We got about 2-3 minutes left of this video. This is part 5 for episode 1. I think the in-game music has been pretty good so far. We're listening to the country station in the game. I would listen to the electronic music, but electronic music tends to trigger my migraines, so I tend to avoid it. I don't know why it triggers migraines, but it does. It just... my body retaliates. Up, and there's the end. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember to hit that notification bell when new videos come out. And thanks to our Patreon contributors, SHJ. He's been donating now for 6 months now. He's been our good contributor, and we thank him. And we'll see you in the next part 6.